Hey, sometimes things are really going great for us, and we get jacked up, right? I mean, we are all in when everything's going well. We got a good job and we're doing our job well, and things are falling into place. And things at the house are good, things in the community are good, maybe things at church are good, and sometimes we start to think about, man, I got this all together. Man, I'm like pretty impressive. And we don't say it out loud because then we would look like big jerks. But in our head and our mind, right, we start to think about, man, I'm all that, man. I know what's going on. I got this thing all figured out. And we start to think really highly of ourselves, and we start to act like, we got it all together, and maybe everybody else doesn't, and everybody else doesn't really know what they're talking about because we're the smartest ones around, and we know how to make things happen. And hey, if everybody wants to get in line behind me, that's cool because I know you know what? I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty cool. And it's called pride, right? Things happen, and we start to think that we're better than we really are. And we start to think that, well, nothing really matters except what I want and how I want it and when I want it. And in the Old Testament, there's a place, and they call it Babel, right? And everybody was living in the same area, and it was in Babylonia, on this plain in between the Tigris and the Euphrates River, and everybody was there, and they're all together, and they're all speaking the same language, and they're doing great, and they're like, you know what? Things are going great. You know what we ought to do? We ought to build this tower to heaven because, man, we're awesome. And we're kind of like gods because we're so awesome. So let's build this tower to heaven, and then we'll be like, whew, immaculate. And God kind of looked at that and said, you know what, man, you guys need to knock it down a peg. And then he changed language, gave different people different languages, and they couldn't understand each other anymore, and they just kind of dispersed. And they went away, and they moved away, and the people that were speaking one language, Frenchies went to France, and the English went to, right? You know what I mean? And people just kind of dispersed because they couldn't understand each other anymore. And now they realize we're not all that, We really aren't all that. And we need to understand that as well. We're not really all that. Yeah, we may be smart, we may be gifted, and we have abilities, and we know, how to do things. But you know what? When we start to think that we're the best at everything, when we start to put ourselves above everybody else and above God, then we've got a problem. And we need to understand that if we're in the faith, anything that we put above God is our God. And that can be even ourselves. As we go through these days, may we keep God where he belongs, first and foremost in our lives. May God continue to pour out his grace, mercy, and blessings on each and every one of us until we get to meet again. Amen. Amen.